Welcome to another episode of the 90th Percentile Podcast. I'm Owen Hurd. No Ross this week as he is traveling in Reno, but we are joined by our first guest, Blaine Kussmaul. He's a scout with the Red Sox. We're going to be diving into some of the Red Sox system, some rising pitching prospects, some next big risers, and building our kind of perfect prospects. So we're excited to get into this, Blaine. Excited to have you and looking forward to this.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, absolutely. So first off, I want to start off with just some of your kind of some of your approach to scouting and just kind of what traits in hitters and pitchers do you kind of focus on the most in your evaluations?
For sure. So with scouting, my first big thing with any player, pitcher or hitter, is I go and look at their character. I do a lot of background. I've come out of the field, so I'm not getting a lot of more personal time with players anymore. But when I would go scout any player, first thing I would go do is talk to coaches, talk to their teammates, go talk to teachers of theirs, just get a good feel of the type of person they are, make sure they fit in with our values and principles as for the organization. Now trait wise, usually going into a scout, I go, depending on what we're looking for at the time, you'll hear names, but it's, how do they run the bases? How does their delivery look? I always try to have a plan of going in there and, then wait to see if someone else around there catches my eye at the time with it.
Okay. No, I love that you brought up the character part because I think that's something you don't really see on scouting reports a lot. Like you see the tool grades, but I think, the best kind of players too, it's just as much a mental game as it is a performance game as well. And just having players who are like students of the game too, that, just can learn, mature players who can take feedback well. Those are good ball players. So I like how you brought that up, and just kind of to build onto that. Have there been times where you have gone to see one player and then another one that you may not have gone to see originally has you've been more impressed with?
Yeah, that came up last year with us. We went out and we went to see Peyton Tolley last year, and there was a kid there. He's coming up this year with him on that same team. Can't really who it is, but there was a kid that wasn't even on our radar because we were looking for last year's draft, and this kid has shot up our boards. He's a great kid. He's super smart. He gets the game. So yeah, someone not even on our radar last year is now big on our radar this year for the draft.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's, that's another thing too, is like, I've kind of gotten more into live looks as well. When I was watching Indiana baseball this spring, I was more there to see Corbin Dickerson and Devin Taylor. But, there's a true freshman shortstop, Cooper Malamazian, who really impressed me a lot. And like, I text our director of pro scouting about him, and I'm like, he had never heard of the guy before. And I'm like, this guy's a really impressive ball player. Like, not a natural shortstop, just looks every bit of a natural there. Can hit the ball to all fields, bit chase heavy, bit aggressive, but I think this is, a potential, very well-rounded shortstop. He was a 17th rounder of the Brewers 24. And I think this is somebody who, I believe he's 20. I want to say 27 eligible. I think this is somebody realistically who could be a mid-round pick, I'm going to get to see him again this season. So, I think I always find it interesting when you kind of go to see one person and then it's like, you see somebody that's really kind of catching your eye and it's like, who is this guy? Like, not even on my radar. Like, I had to look up his number to figure out who he was at the time. But
yeah,
I think it's just those kind of experiences that they kind of make scouting in a way, is like, some of those best, like, kind of hidden gem finds for those orgs are some of the turn out to be some of the best. Like for the Red Sox, like, Brian Bea wasn't a huge bonus, if I'm remembering correctly at the time. Neither was Cedar Rafaela. I believe both were. I think it was like 50 to 100,000 each, if I'm getting that right.
Yeah, they were low on that end. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's really kind of one of the interesting things is you may go to see one guy, but there's another player on that team that, may turn out to be a better find for that respective org.
And if I'm not remembering this right, I don't know if I am. if I believe so, the Red Sox went down to go see Christian Campbell, and Conrad Cason was there, and that's how he got up on the radar with him. If I'm remembering that correctly, but
Yeah.
that's another example of that. We went down to go see Campbell, and it's like, look at this two-way player.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
on the Kaysen side, like he was a name that you mentioned to me kind of coming out of the draft that you loved. Like I don't remember exactly, but I think there were some we also play some fantasy baseball. For those as well. We playing a couple leagues together. You had mentioned that there were some, there were some first year players that year that you would take Kaysen over.
Yeah, for sure. His talent is off the wall. It's unbelievable. And seeing, a lot of kids coming, out of high school, they're already two-way players. They're already pitching, they're already hitting, they're already doing all that. It's finding the player that you can believe in, that you can develop as a two-way player. And he has all the tools on both sides, and letting him just go has been awesome to watch, especially if we can get him to keep it short. Yeah, that'll be awesome.
I think those stories are always fun ones to watch, is because like you see kind of, like you mentioned, a lot of two-way guys coming up, even in college too, not just really high school, but some guys that may go both sides, and then, team will just switch them to just focus on one area at some track in their development. But when you hear buzz about guys who legitimately have a chance to stick both ways, Shitara Mori with the A's is another one that I'm really interested in watching. But I think it's really interesting to see just kind of pro teams and developing these guys on both sides of the ball. And in Kayson's case, like he's already up to 99. He was 99 up to 99 with a fastball, I believe, coming out of the draft. Really good athleticism at shortstop. Good exit velocities. Those are things you can work with for a two-way player. So, I know we're both very high on him. I have a few shares as well in my dynasty leagues. In the nature of this pod, like, what do you think is a 90th percentile outcome for him?
Ooh, for Conrad Cason, I see him. I'd put him. Oh, he's hard because he's still so young and developing with it.
Yeah.
It
like if everything clicks hypothetically, and we can split it up. Like we can do a 90th percentile outcome for him as a hitter, or him as a pitcher, just since there's not really a lot of natural two-way comps.
Yeah, and you can't Ohtani comp him.
Yeah.
So I mean, as a hitter, I see him as like a Bo Bichette. High on base, has power, but can tap into it here and there. He's not going to be a slugger, but he's got it in his bat. Pitching, I mean, he's a good mid range. Like he's going to be a good middle of the rotation if all works out. He's very deceptive, and that I think is going to be his bread and butter. Is he hides that ball well during his delivery. So and it plays up a lot. Like he'll hit 99, but people aren't seeing it that good. That's the thing. So and it has a lot of induced vertical break. So that on top of it, he can be a solid number 2 if everything clicks right.
I'll throw this out there, but just on the topic of deceptive starters, what do you think about Blake Snell as a 90th percentile outcome as a pitcher?
I mean, results don't lie with things. So yeah, he's good with it. It's that walks. Those walks with Snell scared the crap out of me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think really I was looking at it more just from a deceptive and kind of perspective. Things kind of similarly. Obviously, it's tough to project where Kason stuff is going to be a couple years from now, but looking at it presently, I think there's kind of some early similarities there.
Snell or a Castillo.
Okay.
He keeps that ball tucked away, and you're not seeing it until after. I think if I remember, he's not getting rid of it until after when he's perfectly perpendicular. So
interesting. So you like the delivery a lot.
a lot, a lot. He repeats it consistently too, which is great for such a young pitcher.
Yeah. For me, I was thinking like maybe and this isn't by any means just a sexy name at all, but I was thinking kind of a Glaber Torres type for a hitter. Like
Okay. Yeah.
I don't think he's kind of quite the slugger like you said, but I think this is somebody who can give you 15 to 20 home runs, 60 to 75 RBIs, good on base percentage, can take walks, maybe kind of a good, upper third of the lineup type hitter, kind of like Torres was and has been.
Mhm.
But no, I think the Bichette one is interesting, and I think really you can dream on just if he's able to kind of keep that velo deep in the arsenal a little bit, and the control can kind of hold up as he moves up. You can really dream on the outcomes for him as a pitcher.
Yeah, especially with that bat too, because he gets it through the zone so quick, and he holds back a lot. Like he's swinging late on these balls, but he's not. It's not swinging late to be late on the pitch. He's literally getting his eye on it a lot longer than any of our other players, and his bat speed is so quick around where you're like, oh, he's going to be behind, and nope, he's right on it, shoots up the middle. It's like, what? Okay, that works.
Yeah. I think really just kind of the athlete, and even just at his age, like the physicality that he has, both from a hitter and being able to hit near triple digits on the mound, just like that just really impresses me a lot. And I
Yeah.
think like I said kind of like this offseason, like he was a dark horse for me to kind of end the season as a Red Sox top 5 prospect. I think like maybe a little bit early on that one, but I think that's a very realistic outcome for him, especially if he can just keep develop the arsenal a little bit deeper and keep the kind of physical traits as he moves up.
Oh yeah, yeah. He needs to develop that third pitch a lot more, but he'll get there. He's a young kid.
Yeah, and then next off, there's 3 kind of rising Red Sox pitching prospects I'd love to get your view on. Peyton Toll, who you mentioned earlier, Brandon Clark, and Connolly Early. I was going to ask, what are your personal views on each, who you're highest on, and what a 90th percentile outcome for each would be for you?
So Toley's the big gun out of it. And there was we had talked before about the Red Sox philosophy, and in the past of them building up they didn't have a great farm and arms. So there was a change of philosophy like with last year, and
Yeah,
the way that the draft was a lot of college arms. Didn't go a lot of prep, went a lot of college, and he came out of that class. Um, he's a big boy. That's the thing. Like he's 6'6", 240. He's got huge extension off the mound. So I mean, he's on top of you throwing that baseball. If like any pro comps with him, Peyton, I mean, he sits roughly 95, 97 with it a lot of the times. He's got like a Hunter Brown-esque Brian Wu.
interesting.
Yeah, like he's interesting. Again, he's still developing. He's got a great pitch mix, but his secondary pitches are still a work in progress. I mean, he can live with his fastball, and his fastball can get him through the minors by itself. That it's such a good fastball.
Yeah, no, I think I think the fastball is, an MLB ready pitch right now in
Yeah.
some role. And, I think, I have a lot of questions about kind of the rest. Like I think the slider is kind of average for me. Doesn't really have
Yeah.
the changeup is extremely raw, like not very consistent from what I've seen of it. But
Yeah.
I think really with that fastball, like for me, one that kind of came to my mind, and this is kind of with the slider taking some strides, is a Carlos Rodon type. Kind of
Okay. Yeah.
kind of fits from a size, fastball that gets really good whiffs. If that slider can take that step too, that's kind of the arch type that he can kind of remind me of. Maybe not somebody who's going to be a frontline arm, but somebody who can give you a 3.5 to 3.7 ERA with good strikeouts.
Yeah, his K through 9 has stayed up, which has been really good, and it's been all playing off that fastball. But with him getting into more age appropriate levels for him, we'll really start to see, the cream rise of what he's going to do with his arsenal. And the thing I love about him the most is he's constantly asking, whether it's other pitchers or his coaches or how he's a total baseball nerd, and I love it with this kid because it's always, how do I get more RPMs, or how do I get more spin rotation on this, or breaking down like, hey, what do you do? Like, how are you holding your pitches? He's constantly just trying to learn the game of, like, I think he has a baseball in his hand almost all the time because he's just constantly moving his fingers on the seams. Like, he's a real student of the game, and it's been amazing watching him develop.
Yeah. You kind of you mentioned just kind of the switch in philosophy now. Kind of the Red Sox of old were kind of looking at pitchers with good kind of secondary offerings and, more working to kind of develop the fastball. Now we've seen them kind of go after arms with kind of more established fastballs and kind of maybe work on developing that secondary stuff. Do you think that is kind of a big attribute to the reason why we've kind of seen some more of these pitching prospects kind of rise through stock, whereas kind of the farm system of old was kind of highlighted by hitters?
So, well, the philosophy would change was when there was a front office changeup. There was a real hard look at the farm altogether and seeing, where we were at and what we had a huge stockpile of, and hitters we were stockpiled with, so when it came into it we didn't have a pipeline connected really from the AAA level to the MLB level. If a starter went down or anybody, we really weren't ready for it. And we saw that, through 2023 and 2024. Now getting that pipeline reconnected with, instead of going with prep players, we drafted higher college arms ready to go that were already more established and that we could feel into our system and get, quicker through the ranks. We've seen it, with Fitz and Dobbins already. Kelly has come through, Bernardino, another one, all of them. And then having Sandlin still needs some work, but he's about there. And now you have this next wave. So, like we saw where, we traded Priester real early out of that depth, and it's already been filled back in with his. So it's having that to be able to make moves to bring in talent and that's been the issue.
And this next name I want to get into, this is Brandon Clark. He's somebody I have a lot higher than most. He's not far behind Tolley for me right now. I did my updated June top 100 not too long ago. I believe Clark was 96 for me. I think the fastball's already plus. The slider is, in my opinion, a potentially very special pitch. I still think there's some work to be done on a third offering, as well as, I kind of want to see how the command plays up and at the upper levels. But I think there's a fun range of outcomes here for, anywhere from, a potentially number 2 starter to a high leverage reliever. So what are your kind of personal views on Brandon Clark, and who would be a 90th percentile outcome you would throw out for him?
I like him. He's a great kid. Yeah. He in the system, he's got that long projectable frame. Like, he's not going to add more onto it, but he's got these long limbs. And I know it's weird to hear the sound of that, but he's got these long arms and legs where a lot of he's compact until he extends. You don't realize how much extension he's getting. Even, and he comes from that 3/4 arm slot as well. So he's one of the most deceptive pitchers I've seen. He reminds of like early Kikuchi, of how deceptive Kikuchi was when he first came over. And Clark, he's got a great slider. Now, control of it, he's still working on control with it. but he can snap that thing off, and I think he's if I remember, I have to go back and look. He's had 38 inches of break on that thing.
Wow.
That's covering, yeah. And with him,
38 inches of break.
yeah.
That's
Him from sweep, that's horizontal break. So
wow.
he can sweep it from one box to the other box, and it's like we're trying to have to tone it down with him to keep up, with a velocity with it. But if he can get that thing in, he will just dot it and
Yeah.
start dotting it on people.
So we're looking at like a pitch that from a hitter's perspective is looking like, something in the waist zone, not even close to the strike zone. And that, with the break that it has, you're still kind of getting it, edge middle of the zone.
Yeah. And especially as a lefty, there's been a lot of kids. I haven't seen it come up as much on film recently, but like he'll start it and he's looking waist high. It's going to hit you. And then it just breaks off and it's down the middle and people are ducking on it. I've seen a few ducks and they're like, wait, that's a strike? Like, yeah, it came back for a strike.
Yeah. Like that's almost like one of those, like, how do you hit that, as a hitter? Like a pitch that starts that far outside and you can still land it kind of low and away, corner of the zone, and just, hitters don't even realize it's a strike before it's too late.
Yeah, that's where the pitch recognition and reading the seams and rotation comes in for hitters real good.
So this was one, and this is probably a higher end outcome for Clark, but Dylan Cease was a potential 90th percentile outcome that came to mind for me, just with kind of the strikeout upside that Clark has, as well as that kind of, nasty slider. That was one name. What do you think about that for a 90th percentile outcome for Brandon Clark?
Yeah, that's a good comp. I mean, we've joked around in the office and thrown a Verlander tag on him.
Wow.
Yeah, like he has the potential. It's getting it there.
Yeah. No, I think, and that's another thing that Ross and I were talking about on the last pod is, there's a lot of prospects where the data and the tools are there under the hood, but it's kind of those surface results that matter too, because they're, the data is one thing, but then kind of turning that into, the kind of rising stock performance.
Yeah.
Then lastly, this is this is from the 2023 class. It was Connolly Early, and he's somebody who he's shot up a lot for me, having a really good season right now in Double-A. I haven't checked in a while, so you can pull that up right now.
Are you feeling good?
Yeah, yeah, I believe it was like was it something like a 1.5 ERA? Okay, yeah,
1.53.
Okay, it's a 2.17 ERA, 13.4 strikeouts per nine, 51% ground ball rate, 3.8 walks per nine, 11 games, 8 starts, nearly 50 innings pitched, 2.16 FIP. For me, what I like about Early is just how advanced the secondaries are. Is like the fastball is more solid for me, but I think that both the slider and the changeup are both potentially plus. The command is solid. The strikeouts are going to be there. He's somebody who's been in the system a little bit longer. Can you talk about just some things for you that really stand out, or maybe something that he's kind of improved on a lot since being drafted?
Right off the bat, his biggest improvement since draft is his changeup. He's gotten that changeup really, really dialed in. Red Sox comparison with it, and is that changeup with he's worked with Bayo this offseason. He went down with Bayo and worked with Pedro, and that changeup, it's getting filthy. It's low mid 80s, and it drops off the table. Like he'll have it, and he's playing it real well off his fastball. That there's roughly 10 to 12 mile an hour difference between the two, and coming out, he throws out of the 3/4 arm slot as well, and it's a very, very nasty pitch he's going in.
Yeah.
His secondary stuff that when drafting him wasn't the best, and that he's got a sweeper and a curveball now. His sweeper is the better of the two, but it's getting a lot of good horizontal break, and it's been a real work in progress with him. But each appearance he's come in, we've just watched it get better and better and better, especially we've shifted him from the third base side of the rubber to the first base side of the rubber now. So it's actually helped improve his arm slot and his deception just by shifting him over on different sides of the rubber too.
Yeah. No, I think that's another thing that's really stood out to me about early is just, the ability to kind of throw like a mid to upper 80s mid to upper 90s, sorry, fastball at you, and then kind of get right off of that with like kind of a low to mid 80s changeup, and just kind of the separation that can have, just how tough of an at bat that can make for a hitter with just the velocity difference that you're seeing between those pitches.
Yeah, and he's real good at working the ladder too. So like, the change of speeds and changing the eye level is real key, and that's going to be his success, is if being able to change those eye levels of the hitters and just keep them uncomfortable. That's the thing I like the most about him, is I really don't think I've seen a really comfortable at bat with anybody against him.
Yeah, no, I think like just kind of the depth of the stuff and just how tough that can be is like, for me personally, like my philosophy is I have a lot of concern with kind of like primary 1 to 2 pitch guys. It's just because like, are those pitches going to be good enough for big league hitters? Because, they can just kind of wait on one and then kind of wait for them, force the pitcher to throw the other. But I think with early, like when you have kind of that foundation of like, average to above average fastball, and then 2 potentially plus secondaries, and then the couple others, the sweeper, and I believe it was the curveball you said that he's working in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you look at a potentially kind of 5 pitch mix like that's a good starter's foundation right there. And there's for 90th percentile outcomes, there's a couple Philly starters that came to mind. I'm going to throw both of these out, but Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez. What do you think about those two?
Yeah, but I'd go with Sanchez. Probably not Ranger. He doesn't have that explosiveness that like Ranger has, but he's more of I'd say like a Sanchez is better comp with that.
Okay. Yeah, the Ranger one for me was kind of coming because like, the changeup, good feel to pitch, maybe not the best fastball, but one that he can still kind of work in with at bats. But I think both of those two were just, with the kind of changeup that those were kind of two that kind of I naturally drifted to on that.
Yeah, and like when we were talking about before of looking for things in prospects when we're going to draft, him with his was perfect with he went and played at Army first. So seeing back and going back and seeing how he was with at Army, and just talking to some of that of he's got a great character too. So even if things get tough for him, he will work through them. And that's probably like one of the best things with him is he's a dog with it, where if say his changeup wasn't the greatest that day, he'll the next day be in the bullpen throwing changeups with whoever he can get to catch him, to be like, all right, I figured it out. And that's what I love the most about him, is he will figure this out. And I myself, as much upside as he has, I would love to see him in the bullpen. I think he probably will have, if we would commit to him as a closer, I think he would be probably one of the most lights out closers there are. His stuff is that deceptive. And if you only have 1 inning to go against him, you're not going to get him. That's, yeah.
I was kind of I wasn't really, I don't really have the same kind of concern of reliever risk with early that I have with kind of Clark and Toll. But now that you kind of brought it up, who would be kind of a realistic reliever outcome that you could see for him should he kind of assume that role?
Chapman without velocity.
Interesting. Okay.
Like I think if he gets all of those pitches dialed in, he's going to be scary. And especially if you only have 1 at bat at him a night, he's just going to be because he has so much confidence in him too. He loves the game, and like I said, it's just Chapman without velocity. He's not going to hit you, 100 miles an hour, but he's going to get up, touch 97, I believe it was topped out at. But with the induced vertical break and his long extension, it plays up a lot. So that 97 plays like 100, 101.
Here's another one to throw out. This is also maybe with a tad less velocity, but Andres Munoz with the Mariners. Just looking at we talked about the slider. Still a four-seamer that you can throw. Munoz doesn't really throw his changeup nearly as much as I think Early will, but I think that's another interesting one that kind of could stand out to me as well. Because like if he can get that fastball up to 97, Munoz is a tick higher. I believe he's like 98.5 average on the fastball, but I think that's another interesting one that I can kind of see.
Yeah, or even like a Chris Martin. That's probably more of a projectable one, like Chris Martin-ish type guy. Yeah, around there.
I like Martin more, kind of from a velo, and then just the kind of secondary standpoint.
Yeah.
And for the next one I want to get into is, the last two seasons we've seen Roman Anthony and Christian Campbell kind of meteoric rises up the minor leagues. Who do you think could be that next prospect in Boston's system to make kind of a somewhat similar rise to a non-top 100 prospect to maybe a top 20 to 15 prospect in the game?
Oh, I mean, there's a handful of them we've already started to see. You have just Nixon Garcia. He's recently made the jump to AAA, and he's just tearing the cover off the ball there. And that's another back, to a Kyle Tucker problem. is Garcia is tearing the cover off the ball. He's doing everything asked of him. He's flown through the system too. So Garcia is another one I'm really big on. There's Encarnacion.
Yeah, Fraley Encarnacion.
Yeah. He's another one that's come up, flown through the system as well. He's baffling because he looks like he shouldn't be able to do the things that he's doing, but he does them, and he does them consistently too. Is the thing.
Yeah, he's not the biggest guy either, right? If I'm getting like he's around like 6 feet, 180, 190, and we've seen exit velocities north of 120 miles per hour.
Yeah. Him and Soto were having an exit velo hit off, and they were consistently 120. And I'm like, wait, consistently? And we're looking at it, and it's like, yeah, coming off 120, 123, 122. And it's like Soto hit one at 133 the other day, and I was like, no way, that can't be right. And they're like, no, we checked it, it's right.
133.
133 off his bat. He took a 99 mile an hour fastball and just put it 480 feet out, like roughly.
We don't have 17-year-old. That's absurd.
Yeah, that's why we're like, this isn't right. They're like, this can't be right. And he unloaded on this baseball. I don't think they ever found it.
Yeah, you mentioned Garcia. I have him kind of back end of my top 100 right now. My big concern is just the contact skills and the swing decisions. That's kind of one area where I'm like, I like the power. Like he makes good contact out of the zone. The chase rate is a little high, but not terribly high. But the sub 75% zone contact is something that kind of really concerns me. Is I worry that this is a profile that he can get beat by good secondaries low and away in the zone. Just what are your thoughts on that? And just, do you have kind of that similar concern with the contact skills and how they'll translate to the major league level?
I mean, so that is his weakness. He does chase a little. His recognition of the strike zone is getting better. It's why he got the promotion as well. We watched it get better and better. He spent the entire offseason working on pitch recognition, and he went back down to the DR. And he played with the Dominican in the winter and worked with, I can't think of the guy's name, but all winter, that's all he was doing was pitch recognition, zone control, bat control through the zone. So, I mean, he's got such high power potential. To add that with, he's pretty fast as well. And he's young. If I'm mistaken, he's only like 19 at the time. If I can't think of his age off the top, but he's young.
He's 22 now. If you're talking about
Oh,
Garcia.
it's his younger brother.
Oh, okay.
His younger brother.
Yeah, Joanne Frank Garcia.
Yeah, he's the younger one. There we go. So yeah, with him being older, I mean, he's got wheels and the power. Like, you can put it all together. I mean, you have an all-star type player sitting there. And I mean, I fully believe he's going to put it together. It's just, when is it going to come?
Yeah, no, and I'll skip over this this next one because we talked a little bit about kind of the Red Sox pitching and just kind of they have the highest breaking ball usage in the minor leagues, 46.7%. Guess we could touch on this a little bit. Can you just talk about what is your kind of personal perception of kind of the pitching philosophy change, and has it changed how you evaluate kind of pitching prospects?
It hasn't changed how I evaluate pitching prospects. I mean, baseball will always be everything plays off the fastball. If you don't have a fastball, you're not going to be a pitcher, especially nowadays. Our philosophy changed, and I mean, that's a personal philosophy, bringing a new head of pitching, pitching development and all that. So everything trickles down. I don't like it as it is with it. Having good secondary pitches is needed, but you're having, especially in a time now where we're chasing velocity and putting so much more strain on these young kids' elbows and shoulders, where now that we're making them throw high torque, high revolution pitches more often, I believe it's putting a lot more wear on these arms.
Interesting. So I was looking at it more as like, the kind of the secondary heavies, they might play well in kind of the lower levels of the minors, but there are going to be advanced hitters at the MLB levels that can lay off these kind of low and away secondaries out of the zone, and you've got to try and get a fastball by them. And I like how you mentioned just the importance of having an elite fastball, or at least a good fastball. Is like, when I see just a pitcher throwing a low 90s fastball that doesn't really have elite movement in the lower minors, like there's a couple exceptions to this, like Cal Steven is one with the Blue Jays, is like, he has a very Chris Bubik type fastball. So he's one that, like, even just with the fastball being 92 to 94, I like the pitch from a movement perspective. And I still think it's one that's going to play as he moves up. But when you have pitchers throwing just like Cade Povich is a good example of just like a 93 mile per hour fastball, that just doesn't wow me all that much, because you need a fastball from both a velo and a movement perspective to beat big league hitters. And yeah, I think it's interesting what you brought up from a health perspective. And I was looking at this the other day, is the highest growing segment of Tommy John patients is now kind of 14 to 19-year-olds now. Yeah. So I think really it's interesting. Just, you mentioned just kind of the torque and, putting more spin on these type of pitches is really interesting.
Yeah. It's something, there's a deeper study going into it. They're still trying to figure it out, but maybe it's an old school part of me with it, but I don't like the way it's going, but I have no control over it either, so.
Yeah, no, I think, it's kind of like you said, is I think a lot of people recognize the problem that the growing injury issue has, but there's not really like a very kind of easy solution. Because I think this is something that kind of stems from, a youth travel level where you have guys throwing, 120 pitches. And, even as recent as a few years ago, there wasn't really a standard for how many days that they need off between, or how many pitches they can throw every certain number of days. And you even look at stuff like the College World Series, with like, you have starters going 130 plus pitch complete games. And it's like, yeah, like it's impressive from a marketing standpoint. It's going to get eyeballs, but that level of workload is just not good for your elbows long term.
Yeah. Yes, and so it's like a double double-edged sword here with this, like, because we saw pitchers for what, almost 100 years in baseball throw that many innings and not have as much elbow injuries. Yes, there's always been elbow injuries, but you're not having these young players from back then to now of needing to have Tommy John surgery before they're even in the pros because of it. Like I said, the studies, and there needs to be more data on it, but is it us chasing velocity where, you have 15, 16-year-old kids back in the day, 88, 89 mile an hour fastball. Now there's a 15-year-old that we're looking at, and we can't sign him. We're looking at him because he's not age required. He hasn't hit the age yet in the Dominican, but the kid he throws 97 and he's 15. It's like, all right, yeah, when we can, we're going to try to sign him, but how long, is it going to hold up? That's my thing of, when is he going to need that surgery? It's not longer if, it's when now. That's the problem.
Yeah, I think like Rowdy Reyes, who's signed with the Braves last period, is another really interesting one. 100 up to 102 at 16 years old. Yeah. It's almost stuff like, 10 years ago, you would be impressed if even a big league reliever was, hitting that velo. Like when Chapman was doing it with the Reds, it was just eye opening, and I just the last question I'll ask on this is from maybe it's just from my perspective, but do you think that part of, the injury problem has been kind of a shift away from more of the kind of control command over stuff types that we saw kind of in, the 70s, 80s to more of kind of an emphasis on stuff and velo?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So yeah, there isn't, it's hard. You can see it. I mean, across any sports, but especially with baseball, yeah, the chase velocity, not going after, command, fundamentals have gone away from, you've watched errors every year go up. I don't know where it goes is the problem. We see the problems, but the best thing in baseball is a perfect game. The best thing to do in baseball, and that's the most boring baseball to an average fan. There's no hits, there's no action. It's get up, sit down. So, and people are getting paid off. Can you hit triple digits? If you can hit triple digits, you're going to get $15 million a year. You don't even you can have an ERA of 6 and they're still going to pay you because everyone will think that they can rein in your velocity and you get your control. I don't know, man. It's such a
and just
a weird spot.
One more thing to add on that, nowadays, if you're not throwing, low 90s at 15, 16 years old, you can probably kiss D1 goodbye. That is just really how hard that you have to be throwing to get in with just some of these top tier college programs. And the last thing I want to get into, and I think that's a great subject to talk about, just kind of some of the pitching injuries and just the philosophies. Is I want to we'll do the snake draft style, so we'll do kind of back and forth, and to make it fun, I want to combine the hitters and the pitchers, so you can go hitter one, pitcher another. But can you build your perfect hitting and pitching prospect? So for hitters, hit, power, speed, arm, field, and then pitchers, fastball, slider, curveball, changeup, or sinker, and control.
Okay.
And I'll let you start it off. We'll do you pick one from each of the hitters and the pitchers, and then I'll go, and then we'll have our hitting and our pitching prospects, and just a player whose tool. Just you can take a tool from any player, any org, any level.
Okay. Let's see. So if I want to build my perfect prospect, with power, I mean, you have to take Aaron Judge's power.
Sorry. Well, sorry. We'll say prospects only. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot that.
Prospects only.
Yeah, prospects.
Power out of prospects. Let's see. Who do I liking right now as a prospect with power?
I like how you're starting it off with power. I was kind of
Yeah, because that's the hard one. There's such a group right now. Plus, you've had so much movement. Um, Justin Long, I believe, out of the Cubs.
okay.
He's launching the ball right now.
Okay. Yeah,
he's got a great especially with Chicago power makeup, power profile for that park as well.
Yeah, he honestly wasn't one I was thinking of, so I like how you brought that one up. I'm going to start off with hit tool, and I'm going to go with Kevin McGonigal. In my opinion, he is the best pure hitter in the minors right now. Like,
Yeah.
if I honestly, if I had to pick one tool from any hitting prospect, it would probably be his hit tool.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's probably going to be up there with like an Abrams, Arise type. Like, he's going to get on base a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And one more thing I forgot to mention is you can't use the same prospect for two different tools.
That would make sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's back to you now.
Hit tool. Hit tool coming up. Wow, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on this one. On the hit. All right, hold on. I have to. The hit tool. I cannot think of this. I know his name. Where are you?
Blaine is getting into the non-public StatCast data
yeah.
right now.
Kalen Culpepper. There we go.
Okay.
There we go. I'm like, I was saying Dante Culpepper in my head. I'm like, no, that's a quarterback. Yeah, Kalen Culpepper's hit tool. I mean, dude, he started off not all that great. I mean, the way I've seen it is it seemed like it was one of those, wow, I've been drafted kind of things. Like, I'm actually playing pro ball now. And once he settled in, this kid is just hitting everything. I think before his promotion, he was hitting like 353, like 353, 45, 579, something like split, like slashes like that. And he has that just combo of power and contact. And I'm the Twins got to steal with him.
Yeah. I like that one. I'm gonna go to pitcher now, and I'm gonna go for my fastball. Give me Chase Burns.
Yeah. I mean, we just saw what he can do with it. The kid is amazing. I mean, so I'll join you. Fastball is Bubba Chandler.
Okay, I like
Bubba
that
Chandler's fastball, and he's going to be being able to pick Skeens and Jones's brain and Falter and Keller. When Chandler gets there, he's going to be a force, and he's a former two-way player too, as well. They took him off.
While we're on the Bubba topic, what are your thoughts about his recent control struggles in AAA?
Everyone's going to go through them. Like, I know a lot of people, because everything seems to be, what have you done for me now? And, with everything being online, like, back to like why I ask about character first above all else is baseball is a 70% fail sport. And a lot of these kids, they don't fail that much in high school, in little league, they're the best player on their team in their state. They don't fail a lot. When they come to us, they're going to start to fail. So how are they going to be able to handle failing at a very high clip? So that's the good thing with Bubba is he's failed before. They took him off being a two-way player because he was failed hitting, and he just threw himself into pitching, and went from, I think when he was two-way, I think he topped out at 88. And since he just has focused on pitching, he's skyrocketed through the system and through the prospect rankings as well.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. I didn't even realize he had gained that much velo between going from a two-way to solely focusing on pitching.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna go with maybe an untraditional one right here. I'm gonna go to arm right now, And I'm going to go with Carson Williams with the Rays.
God, yeah. Carson Williams, great arm. I'm excited to watch what the Rays do with him.
Yeah.
Really am.
I have some major hit tool and contact concerns, but I think he's one of those, if everything clicks, look out.
Yeah. And I mean, he could be a Chase Utley type defensive player. He just has such good range and arm. Even I think it was like last week, I watched him throw from short on his knees. Didn't even get up, slid, got a ball, and threw it from his knees and still got to run around at first. I was like, wow, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's back to you. You've got fastball, hit, and power.
Ooh, fastball, hit, and power. Well, I took Chandler's fastball.
Yeah.
So hit curveball or off speed. Do you have a curveball or off speed?
I had it curveballs, changeup, or sinker.
All right, curveball. Travis Sikora.
Okay, I like that one.
Dude, he's coming up very fast, and yeah, his curveball. I mean, I think he's got a ridiculous strikeout to walk ratio with it. I want to say he's like something like 24 strikeout to walk ratio when he's punching batters out with that thing on full count stuff like that. But
he has some absurd stuff. He's skyrocketed for me a lot this year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go I'm gonna go speed next, and I'm gonna go Enrique Bradfield Jr.
Another good one. Yeah. I mean, you keep nailing them on the top ones out there. I'm going to assume we're graduating Simpson.
Okay, Chandler Simpson for speed.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't know. He's still a prospect, but almost he's on the fence there. Yeah. I mean, how can you not? He's the fastest man in baseball. He's insane.
I think it's a fascinating case study, because if you look at him just from a speed alone, he can impact your team just without the speed. Assuming he's not the hitter that he is, doesn't have the ratios that he does.
Mm-hmm.
Speed alone, that is an impact player.
Yeah, he's not going to hit you any home runs. That's the thing. No power, all speed.
Yeah. And so I'm gonna go back to power now, and give me Jack Caglianone.
Yeah. I mean, power. Yeah, Cags just crushes it.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with the pitchers here with changeup. And I hated watching this guy leave, but so far the return has been great, is Elmer Rodriguez Cruz for his changeup.
Okay.
His changeup is nasty. And I can see why the reason the Yankees plucked him away from us for Navarez, but yeah, his changeup will be one to watch. Now, whether he sticks in the rotation or moves to the pen is one thing, but he has elite changeup.
Yeah, Narvaez has been a great surprise this season in a lineup that's kind of lacked hitters that have exceeded expectations. He's certainly been one. Yeah. I'm gonna stick with changeups, and I'm gonna go with an arm I probably would have preferred also be included in a potential Devers trade, and that's Carson Whisenhunt. That changeup is just demonic. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's one of the few where it is an 80 grade changeup.
Yeah. I can't argue with that at all. He was another one that was tried to get in the deal and didn't happen.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, we just went off changeup there. You've got slider, control, arm, and field left.
Oh, sliders. There's more Andrew Morris out of Minnesota.
Okay.
His slider, he's got a great slider. Now, the rest of his arsenal is catching up, but he's got an elite slider for.
I like that one. I'm trying to think. I also still need slider. I have a couple that I'm thinking of. Oh, guys, kind of you can't really go wrong with either of these, but for slider, I'm gonna go Jacob Misiorowski.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he just showed it on a national stage to everybody. So
Yeah. No, what a start to his big league career.
yeah, yeah. He definitely showed Skeens up that day.
Yeah, no, that was a fun matchup to watch.
Oh, control. Let's see if I go to control here. There's Michael Ferret out
Michael,
of yeah, or
oh,
out of Baltimore.
yeah, Ferret's a really interesting arm. Um, I think it's interesting with Baltimore's system. It used to be the bats that were taking your attention away, and now outside of Basayo, there's not really a hitter that really wows me. Nate George is interesting. He's somebody that I do also have some interest in. But I think outside of like their kind of top prospects, I'm more interested in the pitchers. Michael Ferret, Trace Bright, Urbina is another one that I've heard a lot of good things about. So
Mhm.
those three really interest me, and I think I'm probably more excited about their pitching than I've been since Grayson was coming up.
Yeah, yeah. They have a good group following right behind.
Yeah.
That's yeah. That should be pretty lethal for them.
Okay, so I still have. Oh, what do I still have? I still need control. So I'm gonna go with a name that I mentioned earlier, and that's Cal Steven with the Blue Jays. He
Yeah.
has 1.7 walks per nine. Like, I don't think this is a flashy pitcher, but between like three average or better pitches in his control, yeah, I think we're looking at a very solid big leaguer. So I'm gonna go Cal Steven for the control.
Yeah, yeah, he's not a very overpowering guy, but he's gonna get you like he's gonna pitch to contact, and he's gonna, he's not gonna put a lot of guys on. I mean, great guy for control.
Yeah.
And let's see, what's the last one I'm missing here?
You do not have so you got the changeup, you have hit power, you don't have arm or field.
Arm, uh, Dorian Soto. Yeah, I mean, he's a kid I've been watching a lot. I spent a lot of time on him recently. His arm, especially in that shortstop position, is going to be key. But he just has such a cannon for a young kid over there. And watching like his projectable frame that to develop into, that arm is just going to get even better.
Yeah. And I think that this is my last one, I believe. Unless I'm missing one. Let's see. I've got fastball, slider, got the changeup with with Wizenhunt, got the control, speed, power, hits. What am I missing here? Okay. Yeah, definitely. I think field is my last, and I'm going to go with Justin Crawford.
Yeah, yeah, that fielding. He was the one popping up into my head too, Justin Crawford. Yeah.
And I believe that's the last one you have as well.
Okay. Let's see. You went outfielder for fielding.
Any position.
Yeah. So Giandri Vargas.
Okay.
For the Dodgers. He's got great range as a shortstop, great arm. Like he brings like a young Trevor Story.
Interesting.
Yeah. He can get to everything, turns great has great instincts for the ball. First read off the bat is really good. He was part of a target of like, if we move Devers, we should target him.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So so there were some other teams also in that mix as well before the trade definitely went down.
There was like I said, we were doing our jobs with it. There was a few teams like, of course you hear rumblings, but yeah, it was, if there's a Dodgers package, this what should be included in it kind of thing.
Got it. No, I that farm system is just an embarrassment of riches. It's right when that it feels like regardless of how good that MLB team is, their farm system is always right up there as one of the best in the majors. They just do an incredible job of just recognizing undervalued prospects in other orgs. Like getting Mike Sirota for Gavin Lux is just another recent example of that. And then turning Michael Bush, who they didn't even have a roster spot for, into Zahir Hope and Jackson Ferris. They do an elite job of just recognizing talent from other orgs.
Yeah. Andy Pagas, all of them. Like
Yeah.
they just churn it out. I mean, it shows that they've invested, I think it was like $3 billion into their player development programs. It's like it shows.
Yeah. No, I think, I remember when I worked for the San Antonio Missions in AA, the team would have a traveling chef that they brought with them. So also just how they treat their players too, and just the investments they make. That's why they're kind of one of those orgs that a lot of guys want to play for.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time. We got together our ideal prospects, impact prospects, and for breaking down some of the Red Sox farm system and as well as their pitching philosophy. Blaine Kussmaul, thank you all for coming on, and thank you all for tuning in. We will see you all next time.
Good one.